Salman Rushdie pulls out of Jaipur Literature Festival. Author Salman Rushdie has withdrawn from India's biggest literary festival, saying that he feared assassination after influential Muslim clerics protested against his participation. The author had been due to speak at the Jaipur Literature Festival. He said he had been told by sources that assassins may be on the way to Jaipur to kill me. Salman Rushdie sparkled anger in the Muslim world with his book, The Satanic Verses, which many see as blasphemous. He lived in hiding for many years after Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei issued a fatwa calling for his execution. The author had been scheduled to speak on the opening day of the 5-day Jaipur event, which began on Friday. But earlier this week, organizers said his schedule had changed and took his name off the list of speakers. I have now been informed by intelligence sources in Maharashtra and Rajasthan that paid assassins from Mumbai underworld may be on their way to Jaipur to eliminate me, Salman Rushdie said in a statement read out in the festival. While I have some doubts about the accuracy of this intelligence, it would be irresponsible of me to come to the festival in such circumstances. Irresponsible to my family, to the festival audience, and to my fellow writers, he added. I will therefore not travel to Jaipur as planned.
अभी तक तो खबर तो हमारे पास है नहीं, खाली सुना है समाचार पत्रों के माध्यम से ही, इसलिए कुछ लोग मिले हमसे जरूर थे जयपुर के अंदर, तो अभी देखते हैं कि उनकी प्रोग्राम क्या है क्या नहीं है, पता कर रहे हैं हम लोग, हमारे चीफ सेक्रेटरी स्वयं इसको देख रहे हैं, वो मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं कि कानून व्यवस्था की स्थिति बनी रहे वहाँ पर, ये हमारे लिए चिंता का विषय है.
India rejects total drug-resistant TB claim. Indian health authorities have rejected recent reports that some tuberculosis cases in Mumbai were totally resistant to anti-tubercular drugs. A health ministry team sent to probe the cases said they were extensively drug-resistant infections. Earlier, doctors in Mumbai said 12 patients had a totally drug-resistant from tuberculosis bacilli and 3 had died. TB is one of the world's biggest killers, second only to HIV among infectious diseases. Normally, a patient with tuberculosis is given a 6 to 9 month course of anti-tuberculars to eradicate it. However, new strains of bacterium have developed which are increasingly resistant to the anti-tuberculars most commonly used to treat it. Partially drug-resistant TB can now be found in countries across the world, and multi-drug-resistant strains affect countries such as Russia and China. But concern over drug-resistant strains of TB is growing, with claims of incurable TB emerging in Italy and Iran. The team that visited Mumbai to examine the totally drug-resistant cases has submitted its report to Health and Family Welfare Minister Ghulam Nabi Azad. The cases reported by Hinduja Hospital fall only within the category of extensively drug-resistant tuberculosis based on standard World Health Organization (WHO) definitions, and not at all totally drug-resistant tuberculosis, the ministry said in a press release. Of the 12 patients, 9 have been found to be stable on current treatment, while 3 have died, it said. A WHO official in India told the BBC that there is no recognized case of totally drug-resistant tuberculosis anywhere in the world. Past claims in Italy and Iran have not stood up to the scrutiny, and the WHO does not recognize totally drug-resistant TB, Dr. Shamim Manan said. The total drug-resistant infections were reported by doctors at Hinduja National Hospital in Mumbai, who said they had treated patients for up to 2 years with a battery of drugs to no avail. The patients came from crowded city slums where close contact between people meant further spread was likely. The report fueled concern over India's ability to contain the disease in years to come. India gets nearly 2 million new tuberculosis cases every year, the highest in the world. and the disease, which is fully curable, kills at least 280,000 people annually. And the huge number of drug-resistant cases are turning out to be a big worry to the authorities. In 2007, India reported 131,000 drug-resistant cases, and officials say that number is steadily rising. Experts say the patients who do not finish their lengthy course of treatment present the bacterium with perfect environment for developing further resistance. Somalia's al-Shabab hit by major Amisom offensive. Pro-government forces have launched a major offensive from Somali capital Mogadishu to seize territory from al-Shabab Islamist militants. Some 1,000 soldiers backed by 20 tanks captured the 3 al-Shabab bases, a senior security official said. African Union forces backing the government says they have advanced outside the capital for the first time. Al-Shabab is under attack on several fronts, with troops from Kenya and Ethiopia also gaining ground recently. Reporters say this is the biggest joint offensive by the government and AU forces Amisom since August 2011. Troops from Djibouti have recently arrived in Mogadishu to bolster Amisom's 12,000 soldiers, while the AU is asking the UN to approve further 50% increase in troop numbers. Al-Shabab controls many southern and central areas of the country. The Al-Qaeda-linked group made a tactical withdrawal from most of the capital last year, but has continued to stage suicide attacks in the city. It confirmed that the pro-government forces had gained territory but vowed to hit back.
Well, thank you for giving me an opportunity. Amisom, we have been involved in the operations against terrorism and extremism for a number of years. And like any other war, it's series of activities. The only difference is that you have an additional challenge of terrorism. When you are fighting them, taking street by street, some of them infiltrate behind with explosives and they target innocent people. That's the additional challenge.
We'll move on to the business world. Vodafone not liable for up to $4.4 billion of India penalties. India's highest court has ruled out Vodafone is not liable for taxes and penalties up to $4.4 billion. The judgment could relieve pressure on other foreign companies facing similar tax investigations in India. The case centered on Vodafone's $11 billion acquisition of the Indian assets of China's Hutchison Telecommunications in 2007. Vodafone said it did not owe tax on the deal as the assets were held by a firm based in the Cayman Islands. In May 2007, Vodafone Dutch subsidiary acquired 67% stake in CGP Investments Limited, a Cayman Island registered company which held the Indian telecom assets of Hutchison. It was presented with tax demand of 112 billion rupees, currently worth $2.2 billion. The Indian government subsequently sought penalties of up to 100% of the original bill. The court has concluded that Vodafone had no liability to account for withholding tax on its acquisition of interest in Hutchison SR Limited, now Vodafone India Limited. In 2007, the company said in a statement.
You think that, that's
maybe you
an
know
invalid
or you
argument?
don't know, but I was trained as a lawyer. So from that perspective, for me, it is very surprising because I've dealt with a lot of M&A transactions in my life, and there are certain internationally accepted tax rules for M&A transactions. And that means that you're taxable in the country where the legal entity is a tax resident. Now, the Indian government apparently moved away from that, and which is not only an issue for India, and you've seen that. That's an issue that will have implications worldwide, because you cannot expect that the Indian government can be the only one doing that, and other countries then saying, nice, good for India, and we're not going to do the same. Now, let me ask you a question. What do you think? Which companies in the world are going to do the most M&A transactions in the next 100 years? Are that companies from the UK or companies from India?
Welcome to the world of science. Quantum computing could head to the cloud, study says. A novel high-speed, high-security computing technology will be compatible with the cloud computing approach popular on the web, a study suggests. Quantum computing will use the inherent uncertainties in quantum physics to carry out fast, complex computations. A report in Science shows a trick can extend to cloud services such as Google Docs without loss of security. This blind quantum computing can be carried out without cloud computer ever knowing what the data is. Quantum computing has been heralded as the most powerful potential successor to traditional electronics-based computing. One of the peculiarities of branch of physics called quantum mechanics is that objects can be in more than one state at once, with the states of different objects tied together in ways that even Albert Einstein famously referred to as spooky. Instead of the 0 and 1 bits of digital computing, quantum computing aims to make use of these mixed and entangled states to perform calculations at comparatively breathtaking speeds. Other quantum trickery comes in cryptography, the art of encrypting data. Data is encoded in delicately prepared states, most often those single particles of light called photons, and the data cannot be read without destroying them.
Because quantum computers use quantum mechanics to do their computations, they're incredibly sensitive to any sort of external noise. Quantum mechanics is basically the laws of physics that dictate sort of the smallest things in our universe, so things like atoms, electrons, subatomic particles, that kind of thing. So if you're doing measurements in the quantum world, you need incredibly sensitive equipment. And this is the sort of thing that you'd need to use.
And in sports, Kalmani faces heat to resign as IOA president. A day after being released from jail on bail, tainted Suresh Kalmani today found himself under intense pressure to resign as Indian Olympic Association IOA president, despite his decision to stay away from sports administration temporarily. Though Kalmani has decided to step aside as IOA president, there is an increasing clamor that he should actually resign as the head of the National Apex Sports Body. Sports Minister Ajay Maken said that the Kalmani should have resigned from IOA presidency after he was charged with corruption in conducting the Commonwealth Games in 2010. By not insisting to continue as IOA president, Kalmani has done the right thing, but at the same time he has not resigned yet. I think there should be a permanent mechanism in place. We should not leave it to the wisdom or will of accused himself to continue in his post, Maken told reporters here.
That our work is already for last 9 months going on smoothly. It will go on smoothly, and everybody should work now for a good Olympic Games where India should have better results. So that should be the motto.
And before we close today's bulletin of news analysis, let's have a recap of the main points. 7 charged as FBI closes a top file sharing site. Afghanistan soldiers step up killings of allied forces. An ethnic war is rekindled in Myanmar. Salman Rushdie pulls out of Jaipur Literature Festival. India rejects total drug-resistant TB claim. Somalia's al-Shabab hit by major Amisom offensive. And there we end today's bulletin of news analysis. Be with us in the coming weeks too. Thank you.